Boom! I am live. So welcome everyone. This is the voice that you are very familiar with. Katsura Bartholomew from Anointed Life, which is hosted by, which is from the International Institute of Pneumatology. I am joining you from the beautiful, rainy, right now, island of Trinidad and Tobago. Alright, so let me see if I can just invite a few folks to watch. Let me see, there were some who signed up. Alright, yeah. So this is actually one of the classes that we invited you all to join from Anointed Life, called Upscale Your Mindset to Live Your Best Life. Now this is going to be like a 20-minute live, short class. And this is specifically for the Christians, a lot of the new believers who want to set new standards of living. And what do I mean by that? Simply that you want to start upscaling your living from the dead Christianity that you have been experiencing and step into now the new realm, the realm that we have been talking about, that you would have heard us for all of these, the realm of the garden realm. Many of you are very familiar with the terminology already, and some of you have the idea already, some of you don't. So this is going to be like a basic, like a 101 class on the first few pointers, the first few things that you need to know, the first few things that you need to change your mindset on before you can start adjusting your standard of living and changing your Christianity. I did in the write-up identify that you need to start believing in yourself. And why I think that is important is that many of us have been groomed in the church and introduced to probably a myriad of doctrines as it relates to God. And one of the things that is common between a lot of them is that you are put down, you are condemned, you are taught that if you don't keep these set of rules, that you are no longer in God's good graces. And that is one of the most destructive beliefs that one can hold on to. Believing in yourself is not believing in the person that you think you are, but believing in the name that you have been given, which is what you would have heard Headmaster Mentor St. Pierre as well as the other Master Mentors identify in their sessions. And from there, you can begin to achieve anything that you set your heart on, and anything that you set your life, any path that you choose to walk. So this is basically what we call like embracing the mindset of Yahweh Elohim, which is the highest frequency, the supreme, living from the God realm, living and thinking from the God realm. And that is where you now begin to make bold decisions. You can now embrace new challenges. The things that in your life that you thought were like really big mountains and obstacles are no longer going to be mountains and obstacles, because from the Elohim perspective, or the Yahweh mindset, those things are like nothing. It's like that part of the puzzle you've already put together, and you move on to greater challenges. So this short, or this 20-minute session or masterclass here is about teaching you the basics that you need to learn in baby steps so that you can start living your life to the fullest and making the most of every opportunity. One of the things that I have found in my experience in Christianity is that you are taught in a very subtle manner to see things as opposing you, it's against you, rather than seeing all things working out for good for you, which is one of the biggest problems in Christianity today. You don't get that job that you applied for, the first thing you're going to do is blame the devil. First thing you're going to do is start to go in your prayer closet and ask God for forgiveness. And it's a mindset of condemnation. It's a very victim-like mindset. And I myself have been there for over 30 years. and many others that we have known have come out from that through the same information that I'm going to share with you now. The same information that Headmaster Mentor ZNP has been sharing over the time frame that we have been investing into you all. And they have transformed their life from that place of living victim-like, seeing all things as Satan doing them something, the devil is against them, to now embracing the new opportunities through the name and changing the realm, changing the whole perspective, which means that things are no longer happening against them, but it's happening in union with them, in the name. So basically, if you want to live that best life that you have dreamed about, if you want to be able to hit all your goals, get your dreams, everything that you have dreamed about, you need to start with your mindset. Start upscaling your mindset. Start thinking like Elohim. This is where you start with the mind renewal process. And the Apostle Paul made it his business time and time again in the script, in the New Testament, to say, renew your mind, renew your mind, renew your mind. It's a common theme. Mind renewal is necessary. Without mind renewal, you're going to say, I am a believer, I am a Christian, and you're not going to see anything because the mind is still carrying the same frameworks from before. The old man mindset in a new man reality, and it's not going to work out. So the first things we want to identify as we start here is the Bible. Because many Christians, or as a matter of fact, Christianity is built upon different belief systems that are taken out of the Bible. But if you don't begin with first giving consideration to what is the Bible, what is the purpose of the Bible, then you're going to be calling yourself a Christian, calling yourself a believer, having the most powerful book in your hand with all the answers to your life, and not experiencing a change, not experiencing the kingdom, not experiencing your best life, the life that you were set out to experience, the fullness of your life. So the first thing we're going to start with is the Bible. So we need to get clarity on that topic. And King Solomon in his Proverbs wrote, to seek logical interpretation with all things get knowledge. And that's the same approach that all Christians should be taking today. That is the same approach found in the book of Proverbs. So get logical interpretation simply means, well, I'm going to put it in really simple terms, and get knowledge is that you reason your way, you get facts, you get truth. You find out what is the objective thought, idea on this. And this is necessary because we have built our lives on perspectives, on ideas, thoughts, opinions of others that has no truth to it, like dead realities, as you hear many people saying. So the first thing we're going to have a look at here is what, and I encourage you to on your own time, whenever you're listening to this, to take a moment and consider, what is the Bible to you? What do you understand the purpose of the Bible to be? And if you have never asked yourself this question, I'll encourage you not to rush this down, because if you have been calling yourself a Christian and you have been attending church, and even if you left church and you still want a sense of God in your life, this is absolutely necessary to start with the mind renewal process. So if it is you're listening to this after this live is completed, I encourage you to pause the video right here and get a pen and paper and write down, what is the Bible to you? And what do you understand the Bible to be? Because many people, their definition of the Bible is what they are using to govern their entire life, to govern their health, to govern their relationships, to govern their family life, all of that. Even what jobs, careers they choose comes out, if you're a Christian, it comes out from the definition of the Bible and how you perceive this book. What are your ideologies on this book, regardless of your denomination? So it is like your starting point, I'd say, for your faith. And we can say that the believers or Christians mystery today is that they approached the very same scriptures and the same book that was actually used in the... Actually, before I get to that, I'll encourage you to take the time, write out your answer, and then if you feel comfortable enough, share it with us in the comment section. This is not a right or wrong. This is actually something that is necessary to reorientate. What we have been taught is that in Christianity, the Bible is simply like God's divine law for everyone on the face of the earth. And what do I mean by that? People approach it like, this book, let's say this is the Bible, this control for the AC. Say this book is the book that governs all of humanity. That is the first big mistake that we make. This book does not govern, it's not divine law for everyone. I'd first start by sharing this. And this is some of the information that actually, if you would like to get more in depth in this topic, I'd encourage you to check out the Induction to Your Covenant. Our headmaster mentor Zane Pierre shared this, or started a series that he's actually continuing with the covenants, which is very, very pertinent to your walk in Christ. So this book is not divine law for everyone. That's the first point that you need to take note of. It actually is a book of functional divine covenants and narratives with stories of those who entered it. So these covenants that we see in the Bible, you'd see, if you have never read the Bible before as a book of covenants, I'd encourage you from this moment on to look up the definition of covenants, look up the definition of contract, like write those two words down, and when you get the definition, write out what it means. Because this book that we call the Bible, I wish I had a Bible in my hand, but yeah, the Bible is actually a book that holds functional divine covenants and contracts. So like covenants and contracts are pretty much the same. So this means that no one is responsible for a contract unless they have formally entered into it. Let's look at a practical example, right? So I go to the bank, sign a contract with them for a vehicle. So, you know, I want this, that, take out this nice BM, whatever it is, and I now have entered a contract, or in ways that we are familiar with in Christianity, I have now entered a covenant with this bank. Let's say it's Bank of America, I don't know, whichever bank. I have now entered a covenant or a contract with them, which means that the terms and the conditions of the contract is actually pertinent or relevant between myself and between the bank. Now my neighbor or my friend or anybody else I'm associated with does not have the right to come and try to partake of that covenant unless they have been included in that covenant. So you'll get what I'm saying here, which means that if we take that same concept and apply it to the Bible, if someone has not been included in the contracts that we're seeing here in the Bible, then they cannot decide that they are going to take from it, and neither are they held responsible to it. And this is the big problem that we have right now with Christianity on a whole, is that the perspective of the Bible has been taught through a very fraudulent lens. Yes, I just said fraudulent. Because you cannot enter or try to take from a contract that you have not been invited into. So if we look at the book now as a book of covenants and a book of contracts, it changes the entire perspective and all the narratives that we have been reading, their significance. Denominations were formed because, like the different segments of Christianity, because one person decided, okay, so I'm going to take this part of the Bible and I'm going to magnify this and look at the Bible through this one component. So we have certain denominations that see the law. They go to the 10 Commandments, they go to Exodus, and they read that, and then they say, you know what? This is God's divine law on all of humanity. You and the entire creation, you all are supposed to keep the commandments. You all are supposed to rest on the 7th day. You all are supposed to do this. You all are supposed to do that. And then they take it now and oppress others. Because if you were never introduced into the covenant, if you were actually never a part of that covenant, you are oppressing another by trying to make them and subject them to something that they did not agree to. And so we have denominations that are formed on just this one component. And statistically, there are 3,000 components of the text because of this. So each component that every denomination focuses on will be their priority. So we have some based on the law, and then there are some based on love, and then there are some based on I don't know, I can't remember the others right now, but you guys can share it in the comment section. All the different denominations are formed on just this one component, and they are not aware that it is a divine the book of the Bible, is functionally divine covenants. So having explained that, if you have never seen the Bible as a book of divine functional covenants, and you have been reading these stories and thinking that they're relevant to you in the way that you have been taught, the first thing you need to do is start changing that. Your life will not change unless you change your belief systems, your mind. From your belief system flows all your decisions. So just to give some insight, the Old and the New Testament are a series of narratives regarding persons that were in divine contracts with God. So this means that everyone that we read about, we have Israel, the prophets, the priests, and so on, they are mentioned for a reason. They are mentioned because they are persons who were in covenant with God. They were in an agreement with God. They were in a relationship with God. They were like in a contract with God. And a contract comes with a covenantal or contractual criteria. Just like when I was explaining, if I go to the bank and I said, I want this vehicle, there is a criteria on my side and on their side. Which means that people outside of the covenant, or no one who is not in contract, is responsible to the Bible. In the same way, if I'm in a contract with the bank, you are not responsible to it. And the bank is not responsible to you. You are not responsible, or the bank is not responsible to giving you benefits, and vice versa. So I think we should first establish that it is disrespectful if we were to go and tell unbelievers that they are like in sin and that they're living a condemned life, and it would be disrespectful to even condemn them and judge them, because in this context, because to be judged and condemned, you have to be held responsible to something. And therefore this Bible, this powerful Bible that we're reading in our hands, is not a book that we can use to judge and say this one is in sin and this one is against God and this one is going to do this and this one is that. If you need verification on that, you can check out Ephesians 2, because Paul addresses the circumcised and the uncircumcised. So we see there's a differentiation. You see that all over the scriptures. But we have been blinded and duped, many of us, to think that the Bible is just divine book with God's law. Now, I know personally, because I have been raised in a denominational system where we pick up the Bible and it's unclean to touch this. Don't touch the carcass. And then everybody's like, don't touch the carcass of the pig, or don't eat pig, and don't do this, and this is unclean meat. And that is because one person took up the Bible and decided that this is the priority, and they saw it through their priority and started an entire denomination based on that, and did not get clarity on who is this relevant to, why is this relevant to them, what is the significance, the symbolism behind all of these things that we are reading. And that's why we have so many confused Christians out here, not experiencing the life that they were meant to experience, simply because they are putting and confining themselves in a bubble. So if you are someone listening to this and you feel like you're stuck in a bubble, first thing that you need to do is start getting new definitions. So like the exercise that I shared a while ago, what is the Bible and what is the purpose of the Bible? You need to get context on that, and which is what I shared here, is divine or functionally divine covenants and narratives of those who entered it. That's the first point we're going to note here. Very, very important. In the upcoming lives that we'll do following this sequence, we would actually give more context, and I will elaborate more on these narratives and these covenants and how it works and how it affects even your relationship with God. This will help give you clarity on the beginning phases of mind renewal, getting out of that phase and that mode of condemnation and the religiosity to start experiencing change, transformation, peace where you can lie down at night and not wonder if God is, where you feel all the stress behind here, not wonder and stress yourself out on whether God is going to do you something because you think that you didn't keep something and you're not so sure what it is that God was holding you accountable to. So that is the first things first. It is not a book and a right and wrongs. So what we're going to do right now is get some context before I go to one second. Now if anyone is typing in the comment section, I cannot see for some strange reason. I'm not seeing it popping up on my screen, so if I do not see your comment, please forgive me. I will respond after. And a massive shout out to all of those who are joining. I do see Holy Sister Loretta Finley is on. Blessings and much love, precious sister. I haven't seen you in a while. Much love to you. And yeah, I don't see the others right now. So what I'm going to share is basically a synopsis of what our life experience has been like and why it is necessary to identify these covenants and contracts, and why it is even necessary for us to understand our own covenants and our own contract. The same dynamics that we have been using from the scriptures or from the Bible concerning covenants is the same thing that we, or the same mindset that we have been applying to our relationships, unfortunately. Because of the various denominations and so many different perspectives that are out there, we have been looking at relationships through a very messed up lens. Why I say it's messed up is because the same understanding we have with God is the same one we take and translate into our relationships with our partners, and there's a lot of ambiguities in it and it's very vague. So in our society, relationships are influenced by what we would call the Greco-Roman perspective or thought system. And that has been through an obsession of emotional attachment and emotional validation. Which is why many women out there are of the opinion that their husbands and their boyfriends have to speak to them in a particular way. You have to speak nicely, take my emotions into consideration, take my thoughts and my feelings. And it's somewhat like a father-daughter relationship that we are subtly taught to expect and to have with our partners. A lot of this comes from the religiosity that we have been taught. Here's why. We go to God, our Father, who art in heaven, and we speak to God as though He is our daddy, our Abba. Because the perspective of daddy that we have in society today, and this is specifically for women, is that He is your provider, He is the one who nurtures you, He's the one who takes care of you, and therefore through that lens we don't really have much responsibility. Which is why a lot of the females are very entitled, because that same entitlement that we are taught through our relationship with God is now translated into relationships. I can tell you because I've been there, and many people can relate to this. So we look at God to make us feel good about ourselves. The thing is that God has already laid out the terms and conditions of the contract, which means He does not need to continuously remind us how precious and valuable we are. That is something that we need to define and not keep throwing it on God and then throwing it on people in our lives. So the concept of God taught in Christianity through, especially for relationships, is destructive, because we take our need for approval and we throw it onto another and expect them to continuously shower us with nice words, nice thoughts, with confirmations and affirmations that we are special. The problem with that is, whilst we are stuck in that phase, creation is not benefiting from our presence. That is like, we are there asking God, show me, Father, that you love me. Show me your love, Holy Spirit. Pour out your heart on me. Whilst we're doing all of that, people are dying every single day. Sick or ailing around us. People are experiencing mental health issues, committing suicide. Young ones are getting caught in gangs. Young women end up in abusive relationships. Young men end up dead before their time because of wrong association. And this is all because the saints are obsessed with feeling loved by God and not doing what they were meant to do on earth, not fulfilling their purpose, and not helping or establishing dominion over the creation and bringing that messed up garden back into a state of perfection that is supposed to reflect. So now we can see that whilst we are there begging God to show us his love and to feel that emotional validation, that creation is withering around us. It is not experiencing the fullness of the sons. It's not experiencing us, because we are called into a royal priesthood, and that royal priesthood comes with responsibilities, which means that you have to get clarity on who and what you are. You are special. You are unique. God will never call you into this if you were never unique, if you were never special, if you were never, approved and validated. He would not do that. So we have to get out of our minds that we are condemned, that we are dirty old rags, wretched, because these are things I've heard in church. All of us, Lord, are sinners who've gone astray. That's rubbish. Yahweh Elohim Yeshua is your breath. He is breathed into you. That is your identity. That is who you are. And what we need to do is start living from there, so that those who are hungry could be fed. Isaiah 61 says, the Spirit of Yahweh is upon you to set the oppressed free. Which means that we have that almighty powerful breath inside of us. We are not setting anybody free, because we are trapped into a realm of condemnation, of rejection, a realm of misery. We are stuck outside of the garden, and all we need to do is to upscale our mindsets, walk right into the garden, and start to tell these devils, get out, go from here, feed the hungry, help the widows, create shelter for the homeless. That is what you are called to do, and those are just a few of the promises. Go to the jails, help those who cannot help themselves to renew their minds into who they are, so that they themselves could also start experiencing the garden. So basically, we are supposed to be bringing more people into the garden. Instead, the Christianity is obsessed with doctrines that one person just had the bright idea today. The Bible is about this, and I'm going to establish a whole denomination on that. And creation is dying. So the first thing we need to consider, as I mentioned, is the definition of the Bible. Then we need to consider our own definitions, and starting with relationship with God. What does it mean to have a relationship with God? The relationship with God that we have been taught is through the lens of emotional attachment, where we're seeking God to approve us, we're seeking God to make us feel good. We need to get that off the table. You are excellent, you are good, you are perfect. Yahweh's breath is in you. Now we need to do with that breath. We need to function with that breath. We don't need to seek consent from God, but rather we need to find out, what are the terms and conditions of our contract, so that I could start getting the ball rolling. I could start going and set these people free, because people are waiting on you to fulfill your purpose. So whilst Christians are running down, trying to get house and car and all of these things, and these things are not bad. These things should not, however, be your pursuit in life. These things should not be your priority in life. Your priority should be functioning as Yahweh. As a byproduct, you experience the garden. You can walk and decide, if I want apples, I pick apples off the tree. If I want plums, I get plums. If I want pineapples, I root a pineapple, because the garden is yours to experience. But you need to function as a divine priest and do not make the priority the fruits. So if this is making sense to you, I will encourage you to consider if you need to start journaling from this moment as we go on from these sessions. I'd encourage you to get a special notebook dedicated towards priesthood, covenantal, transforming your life, and start getting these definitions going so that you can reorientate your mindset and experience the kingdom. This is going to change your romantic relationships as well, because the same principles you take from God and the Bible translated very easily into every area of your life. So if you have been someone who has been obsessed with emotional validation, which means you want your partner to say, babe, you look real gorgeous today, and that's what you need to hear to feel good about yourself, and you're constantly seeking that, then all of that needs to change, because now you're stepping into the realm of functionality. This is now taking yourself from infancy to knowing your worth, knowing your value, and stepping into the kingdom from a validated perspective, from the Yahweh perspective. So on that note, I'm actually going to bring this session to a close. I did say I was going to take about 20 minutes. I am pretty sure that I went beyond my time. But yeah, that just happens when you start speaking in the spirit. It just flows and flows and flows, and it won't stop. Rivers of living water. So thank you all for those who joined in. Thank you for taking the time. I love you all. This is Keturah Bartholomew from Anointed Life signing out. I encourage you to share your takeaways if you have any. If this has been a benefit to you, please feel free to share in the comment section and invite your friends, because this is going to be an ongoing session. And don't forget, if you are really serious about wanting to know how to walk out your covenant, then Headmaster Mentor Zane Pierre has already started Induction into the Covenant. It's simplified for all the saints, all the Christians who want to start transformation of your life. It starts with your mindset, and it starts with understanding what covenant you are called into. So look out for those events, and we also have those past events with the induction of the covenant. I will share them for you in the comment section. If you're interested, just type in transformation. So blessings and much love, Holy Sibling.